Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to King.TV, and I'm your host, Prince Dot. What's going on, everybody? I hope y'all are having a great new year. Um, I'm already hyped up about things to come on the channel. Some of you probably previously known the channel as a different name, but we're a new brand now, so we're making our way up, and that's the only way to go. We only going up from here. So, with that being said, though, we're going to be discussing some football as the football season is officially coming to a close for the 2022 season. It's now 2023, so yeah, we're heading to the end of the season, and a lot of things have happened, taking place. College football is officially over. Today is officially Tuesday, January 10th. So that says a lot. We will be weighing in on some college football dynamics that took place last night, doing a little reflection of the season, especially as an Alabama fan myself. We'll be doing some discussion about that. Not too much, we're going to be covering a lot of things all the way up until the Super Bowl. And I also will be getting into some college basketball as well. As you see, I am an Alabama fan, so well, you don't physically see it, but I am an Alabama fan, and the team is hot this year. I'm gonna be honest; they're doing great. They look good, and I really want to cover that, and we'll be discussing some of that as well as we head towards March Madness soon enough. So hey, I'm hyped. You should be too, and let's go on and dive into it. So we're going to be talking about the ending of college football as you have the Georgia Bulldogs winning their third national championship in school history, and it was in a back-to-back fashion. So, with that being said, I'm going to just play the clip that I made yesterday that I did not get to edit because I talked so long that the game came on, so I was like, oh snap, I forgot to edit it. So I'm gonna just play the clip for you guys, and you get to see what was my weigh in on that game yesterday. Hey everybody, what's good? It's your boy with King.TV, man. I hope everybody doing good on this New Year's 2023. And I hope you're having a great evening on this Monday afternoon. It is officially January 9th. Yes, January 9th. And today I'll be discussing the national championship as Georgia and TCU are going to be facing off in this national championship. It's officially 5:30, so we got about an hour before they kick off. So I'm gonna go ahead and weigh in on some of the topics we're gonna be discussing. So let's get ready and get into it. So the national championship is finally here, and college football season is officially coming to an end. Meaning, it's sad. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna miss football. It's always great to watch. Georgia on that defense is crazy. They have a tenacious pass rush. However, this is where I would say it might be a little too much for Georgia, maybe. Considering the fact that if they over pursue Max Duggan, he will take advantage, and if they play man, they will definitely take advantage of that because Max Duggan know they playing man and there's no one open. He's gonna run if he have the time and the space. He's gonna do that. He's a smart guy, and he's played well, and he's shown it time and time again. So Georgia's gonna play well up front regardless, and it's gonna come down to the passing game and the running game. You got to be able to have the ball for a certain amount of time. But not only is the offense a thing for TCU, that defense is going to have to ball out against this Georgia offense. Georgia got a lot of weapons at receiver and tight end. You got Brock Bowers, tall 6'7" guy. I'm gonna just be honest. He's a monster. I'm gonna be honest. So he got some things he can do to exploit this TCU defense as well. But these guys are gonna have to compete, play hard. They play well, but I will say this: them pass interference calls might hurt them in the long run if they don't get together. But hey, it's football. You never know how the play call gonna be. I say if the refs let them play, it can go either way. But regardless of the fact, them DBs have been playing really good as well. They've been putting work in for TCU, and like I said, they got some things they can do defensively. They just gonna have to create turnovers, do things you haven't did all season long, and the ball might roll in your favor. So time to wrap things up. So with that being said, let's weigh in on who I think will personally win the national championship tonight. So with that being said, this might be very bold of me, but I say Georgia will win it, but by how much would be my question. Would be the question that I answer. I'm a safely say probably a field goal. Because I feel like it just depends on how Georgia play. But I'm safely say a field goal or a touchdown. It's gonna go in Georgia's favor. TCU, they're gonna have to play, but I'm gonna favor Georgia in this one. TCU, good luck out there. I know you got a chance. I definitely feel like it's 55-45. It could go either way depending on how Georgia plays and comes out playing this game. They're going to have to be locked in and ready to rock and roll. Like I said, the TCU is not going to roll and fall over. So, with that clip that I played for you guys, yeah, so there's a lot to discuss in the sense of what went down in that national championship game. For starters, I'm gonna definitely go on a limb and say it was definitely a lack of competition in that game. I mean, TCU battled hard in their conference championship and the playoff game, and then they make it to the biggest stages, and it's almost as if they didn't show up or they just didn't have the talent. Simply as that. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad Georgia won, and that just shows the magnitude of how great the SEC is, and there really is no competition for them. Now, you do have some teams that can hang with the SEC, with the upcoming Texas and Oklahoma moving into the SEC soon enough. So it's going to be a little more competitive moving forward, and if you want to hang with the big dogs, why you got to challenge yourself to get to it. I'm one of those guys that used to do that with football as well. When I played football, I used to like to go against the best, because when you go against the best, that's how you become the best. You got to indoctrinate yourself in that, and you got to learn what it takes to get to the top. And a lot of people will argue that TCU they just didn't have what it takes to become champions last night. And I mean, in some ways they were correct. I mean, we all saw the one play that was made, and that was a busted coverage by Georgia's defense. But other than that, there was no offensive production that we've seen from TCU pretty much all the way up until the national championship. So, to each his own, it was not a great game by TCU. It almost felt as if they simply did not belong there. I mean, sad to say, but it's the truth. And, but they did, play to get there. So, I mean, I guess that's one thing you can speak on. So, moving on, the lack of competition from TCU. So starting out the game, both teams had their starting drive. You got the coin toss. The game's hyped up. Everybody's happy about it. The way what's been ready to go down, and then you have Georgia winning the toss. I'm not saying that was detrimental in no way, shape, or form or fashion. So let's go ahead and continue on to how this game progressed. So you got the opening drive. TCU comes out offensively. They go 3 and out. Not too much I can say about that. It's kind of you kind of expect that going into a big game like that. A lot of teams do often stall out on their first drive trying to fill out their opponents. But there was something very particular that happened, and it happened on both sides starting out the game. Penalties. And penalties kind of killed that first drive for sure for TCU. And I'm not saying that was the game changing moment, but in some way it kind of changed the feel of the game. And I'm gonna speak on it. So the penalties starting out that first drive, you had two back-to-back false starts, and then you pretty much was put in poor field position. Simply put it, you were behind the chains on third down. You could not get that 3rd and 15, so you stall out, end up having to punt the ball, right? But, and this is going to be the main storyline, I would say, that led to this game getting very out of hand. That defense of TCU just could not, they just couldn't compete. I mean, that was one concern that I even had before the game. I was like, their defense is going to have to play to a standard that, and they did not look physical at all. Georgia, they run that 5-man front defense type thing. I'm not really familiar of it because it is kind of a new concept, I would say. I mean, it's a rare concept that you see in football in general. So, they have a lot. They run with a lot of linebackers, and they don't blitz much. They often play coverage. So, I mean, you think they'll? I mean, because they don't really need it because they got a heavy box stack, so they're gonna stop the run immediately. Well, that Georgia put a stop to that immediately with just that defense just was so aggressive, especially the linebackers. They pushed through, and Georgia made them pay. I mean, busted coverages. I mean, for a team to play in a coverage format, but that's what happens when you get out coached, and that's simply what put it. I mean, Georgia out coached TCU that whole game. There was no competition, no competitiveness, whatsoever. It was just downright just boring. It was a boring game. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of even tuned out for a bit of the game. I was like, wow, they go into let's put it this way. Georgia went into halftime up 38-7. That's a 31 point deficit for TCU, and a lot of people felt. I've seen a lot of the broadcast saying, TCU's a second half team. They're a second half team. But you forgot who they are playing up against. And I'm going to be honest. We've seen what Michigan was able to do against TCU. They almost came back, but you played yourself out that whole game in that semifinal playoff game. But with Georgia's being in the SEC, and they just know you can't, with the SEC being as competitive as it is, there's no such thing as being a comeback team. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened before, because there's plenty of times where it has happened or it came close. But what I'm saying is, when you're playing against a very competitive team from a very competitive conference, being down is fine, but being down by such a huge deficit, 31 points, is detrimental within itself. I mean, you gotta think, you gotta come out at halftime guns blazing and making plays downfield consistently, and that was not done. The defense made no kind of adjustments. I mean, they did, but they still got torched. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, Brock Bowers was just letting loose. Stetson Bennett just had a night. It was a night for Stetson Bennett, and what a beautiful story for him to be a walk-on and just win 2 national championships back to back. I say kudos to him. That was a great performance by him, and it's just one of those things that we'll just cut, you know, we'll just call it what it is. Congratulations, because that was just not a competitive game, and you know, Georgia just came in, and then not only that, you seen the dominance just when the second team and their other third, fourth, fifth streams of players just came in and they just dominated. I mean, you seen their running backs. These guys were backups, backups to backups, and they just ran down the field. I mean, they just was dominant, and there was no physicality to this TCU team, and the 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 way they played, it just was not. It was no intensity, no want, no need. It was like they already won the championship when they won that semifinal playoff game, and that's how I look at it. It's like 9 times out of 10, if you got the experience, you just might win anyway. So that's how I look at it. So I will say this: kudos to Georgia as they overwhelmed TCU 65-7. I mean, that is just sad to say as in its own. I mean, it just shows that they probably did not belong into the playoffs, but they played their way into it. So, I mean, congratulations on making it, but we could have got a better game with the way they seeded it, and that's kind of my point I'm making. They could have seeded the seeding better. I mean, we got great semifinal playoff game. I think it would have been great no matter what. One would have probably been a blowout, but they decided to move TCU. Well, they kept them at 3, so they can face off against Michigan. But I felt like we should have had that Ohio State Michigan rematch, and then Georgia and TCU play, which would have originally been the seeding anyway. But they kept them the same. Because I'm like, how you lose and not fall at all? You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Okay. So moving on, you know, Georgia broke many records, and one record that's most notable is they got the largest, and I mean the largest margin of victory in a championship game ever. I mean, that was just, it was outright terrible. I mean, there's nothing I can really say about it. And with that being said, I'm gonna talk about Max Duggan and his whole demeanor throughout that game. We've seen him cry, and everybody has, and we've seen the jokes and everything. But on a serious note, it's almost like it was worth watching him cry, because now it's like, okay, dude, you cried for this, and you make it to that stage, and you just don't show out. You don't play the way you played. I mean, he made some decent plays, but other than that, Georgia just overwhelmed them. I mean, there was nothing he can do. He tried to run the ball a few times. They shut him down completely. He couldn't throw. He couldn't make the throws that he needed to make. And that's what I was saying in the clip. TCU had to do something they never did all season long. And that's something they haven't did, was go against a Georgia defense that's so overwhelming with a pass rush like that. And, they were disciplined. They were ready to play. And Kirby Smart just, went out and said, they going hunting. They're not being hunted. That was his short answer, and he did just that. They came out, dominated, and they got after it, and that's why they're champions. And congratulations to Georgia. Max Duggan demeanor just was not there. The intensity was not there. It was like he almost didn't want it at all. So, they got it. Well deserved. Georgia, congratulations on your back-to-back championship. Probably the first time in a while since it's been a while since we had that. The last one was that Alabama team. I want to say 2014 or something like that. Yeah, it was quite a time. So, Um, with that wrap, with that wrap up, I will say this. Um, let's just talk about halftime, okay? They had Nick Saban on the panel for halftime. Um, you know, I've seen the memes. It was kind of funny. I want to say his name was Tony Pollock. I think that was up there, and he was talking about how Georgia took over college football, and Nick Saban just kind of gave him a little like, "What you talking about?" glance. I think that was pretty funny. I think that's gonna be fuel moving into the next season for Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do going into the next season. You know, I just have a lot of excitement for the next season moving forward. Cause let's just be honest, Alabama it wasn't their year. They didn't play to the standard that was already set for them. And I'm not saying that they have to be the teams that were there previously, because every team's going to be different. There's going to be something, but they just were lacking this year, and they paid for it, and now they have to recuperate, and they'll be back next season for sure. I'm not saying they're going to be out of it, but they're definitely going to be back. Just be ready when they do. And next year it will be the last year of the 14 college football playoffs. So it's gonna be quite a ride to see this last this last bracket for of four teams coming next year. You know, they're moving on to the 12 team bracket moving forward in 2024. Um, so hey, it's gonna be pretty fun to see what happens that first year of that 12 team bracket. I'm excited for it. I don't know about everyone else, but I feel like the 12 team is gonna. I feel like it was too much to do a 12 team. I feel like there should have been at least 8 instead of 12, but it is what it is. I just felt that 12 was a little too much. That's like, you got 25 team, top 10. To me, it just feels too much to have 12, but to each his own is fine. Yeah, so with that being said, I'm excited for next season, or in the season after to come. After last night is Georgia is the favorites to win the title next season, followed by Alabama, which was said. Um, hey, I mean, it's all in the air right now. Alabama, you can't say too much right now because there's nothing for certain. I will say this: Alabama quarterback room will be very competitive next season, and um, just it's gonna be some changes to come, especially with the coach coaching staff firings and hirings and stuff going around. Not at Alabama specifically, but um, maybe people will be leaving Alabama to go get a better job or something like that. We don't know. You got a lot of people leaving, defensive players leaving for the draft who done well. DeMarco Helms, Brian Branch, um, Will Anderson, Bryce Young. Well, he's not defense, but I'm just naming a few. Um, it's gonna be fun to see what happens next season with Alabama Crimson Tide. So, with that being said, I want to discuss some of the rankings. I'm gonna just go over the top 10, give my little opinion on it. So, this was just right after last night, and I just kept a little note. So number one obviously is Georgia. Then you got Ohio State at number 2, Michigan number 3, Penn State at number 4, Alabama at 5, or not Penn State, excuse me, Florida State at number 4, Bama at 5, Penn State is 6. And then you got USC at 7, Oregon 8, and then Oregon 9. I'm sorry, guys. LSU at 8, Oregon is 9, and Tennessee 10. So that's the rankings. Now, this is my personal opinion about that. I feel Bama should be ranked a little bit higher, especially over Florida State, but and maybe even Michigan. I'm gonna just be honest. Michigan just did not play well, and I'm probably being a little biased, but I will say Ohio State, Georgia can be over Bama for sure. After they made the playoffs, so they deserve to be up there, and you know and it's funny that TCU didn't even make the top 10. And this is just the rankings from last night. I'm pretty sure they updated them today, so it's not official, but it is what it is. What I have is what they had earlier. So that was the top 10 for that. And let's just say, Bama. I'm not mad at the place for Bama. I'm gonna just say that as a Bama fan, I think they have to go, as Kirby Smart said, hunting next season, and they're gonna have to go and get it. That's simple as that. They're gonna have to come out and be ready. The penalties killed us this whole season. This whole season, and they just didn't execute the way they were supposed to. But let's go ahead and move on to what if Ohio State won that game? What if they made that field goal? Would we still be saying Georgia is the pinnacle of college football? Will we still be saying Georgia are the title favorites next season? I don't know. I'm gonna just be honest. Ohio State played a great game. In fact, they looked like they dominated Georgia that whole semifinal game. So if they won that game, will we even still have such a blowout fashion game? Would TCU even compete against Ohio State? I don't know. I mean, to me, it's all in the air, but I don't think nothing would have changed. I think it probably would have been a blowout, and Ohio State would have won them another national championship after so many odd years. But I guess that's that. 2022 season is a close for the college football, and it was an exciting season. You got to see a lot of upsets, especially heading towards the end of the season. That second half of the season, November was a killer. I'm gonna just say that's one thing I will be missing when we do move into that 12-team format. The games won't. Some games will start having less meaning moving forward when it comes to that playoff expansion. So I'll probably discuss more of that as we get closer towards that time, probably after next season. So stay tuned to that.